Hi, everyone. You're listening to Live with Necee. I am your host, Opal Bailey, and I have with me today Paul Daly from Paul Daly Law Firm, located in Melbourne, Florida. And good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing all right.
Can you explain to us what is your expertise?
Well, I'm an attorney, and I practice mainly in the area of bankruptcy.
Can you explain to us what is bankruptcy?
Well, bankruptcy is a process, a law, a system that allows people to deal with debt. Back in 1932, the Supreme Court kind of outlined what bankruptcy is for, and they said that it is to help the honest but unfortunate debtor move forward in life unencumbered by pre-existing debt. So it doesn't help the dishonest, but if you got in debt and you need help, that's what the law is there for.
Is there a different kind? Is it just one bankruptcy or different types of bankruptcies? Or
No, there's several different chapters of bankruptcy. The ones that consumers would be relating to would be like Chapter 7, 11, 12, 13. 95% of the people are going to fall into 7 or 13. 11 is for individuals with, let's say, more than $1 million in debt, or so they have a high balance of debt, or businesses that want to restructure. You've seen many businesses over the recent years in the recession that have had to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy to restructure. But consumers can also do that if they have excessive amount, or large amounts of debts. But as an alternative, they have Chapter 13, and Chapter 13 is for people that have less than $1 million. It's like 1.184 million, but for a consumer, small bankruptcies, businesses can't use it, Chapter 13, but individuals that need help to restructure their debts, they could use Chapter 13. And that's, for individuals that need to save a house or save a car. Say you were here on the Space Coast, employed by the Space Center, got laid off for 6 months due to shutting down the space program for a while. And then you get back to working, the contracts are going, the spacecraft are flying, but you missed several months of mortgage payments. So Chapter 13 would let you spread them out over a period of time and let you get caught up. So Chapter 13 is consumers restructuring, reorganizing, saving assets, protecting assets. 11 is for big businesses or consumers with a lot of debt. 12 is reserved for farmers, fishermen. It's because they don't have regular paychecks. Mm-hmm. They have seasonal income. They don't get paydays every 2 weeks. They have their own chapter to reorganize, save a farm. And then Chapter 7 is the most common that everybody talks about, and that's the liquidation bankruptcy. That's where the court is trying to liquidate any non-exempt or unprotected assets to raise some money to help pay back some of the creditors. But, if you don't have anything to liquidate, there's nothing to liquidate. Right. And then businesses that are closing, that they're not going to restructure, they just need to close their doors. That's Chapter 7.
So what is involved in the Chapter 7 process of filing bankruptcy?
Well, it's a, consultation, and Daily Law offers free consultations, but, we have to figure out the individual situation. You have to look at your income, your assets that aren't protected, because it is a liquidation bankruptcy. There's a lot of myths about vehicles. People walk in and they have let's say a 2010 Mustang free and clear, and some people believe that you get to keep one car. No, not really. Because, I would keep my Ferrari that I paid $100,000 for, mm-hmm. But, I make that joke to a lot of people to understand that, your car, my car, it's not you don't get to keep a car, you get to keep some equity in a car, and it's the equity. So let's say you walk in with a 2010 Mustang with a note that's equal to the value. There's no equity, there's no asset. It's encumbered by a lien, and therefore you'd keep it as long as you made the payments to the lien holder. But if you walk in and you own it free and clear, then there's exemptions. And exemptions, you have to see what the exemptions are that you qualify for, what the equity is, and then you have to see whether 7 is a good or bad. So Chapter 7 is all about figuring out if that's what's best for you, because they're not good or bad. A lot of people say, well, is Chapter 7 better or Chapter 13 better? Or, no, it's individual circumstance or tools. When you reach in your box of tools and you need a wrench and you pull out a screwdriver, that's not the tool for the job. You got to put it back. So Chapter 7 is proper for a lot of people, but it's not for others. So then they might need Chapter 13. And then some people think, well, I want Chapter 13 because I want to save my house, but they don't have enough income to save their house. If you can't pay the mortgage payment, you can't pay the mortgage payment, whether you're in bankruptcy or out of bankruptcy. So it's all about fitting into what is right for that individual. And that's why we do the consultations to figure out income, assets, liabilities, because there's other things you can do in Chapter 13. Let's say you walk in, you've got that 2010, and you owe $5,000 more than it's worth. You've been paying on it for 3 years. The interest rate's 16%. In that situation, we may explore Chapter 13 because Chapter 13 could help you lower the balance you owe on the car. It could lower the interest rate on the car. And you could end up saving thousands, $5,000 easy because you're upside down, plus all the interest you could save. You could end up saving a bunch of money by doing a 3-year Chapter 13 bankruptcy and getting to keep the car and only paying what's owed, what it's worth, not what you owe. Mm-hmm. So it's really a long explanation.
No, that's good. So what is some of the areas that the bankruptcy, when filing bankruptcy, it doesn't cover? What are some of the things?
Well, there's things that we call priority debts, things that, the public policy says you can't get out of. And the most common, criminal restitution, public policy says you can't get rid of that. Student loans, the law says you can't get out of that because it's the taxpayers that are insuring the student loans. So, that goes through the Department of Education, which is a branch of the government, which means if the government has to pay out, it's the taxpayers that have to pay. So the current laws dictate that you can't get out of student loans. But, there are exceptions. It's a very complex process, but it's not very common that people can get out of student loans, but it's possible. But under most circumstances, you can't get out of student loans. You can't get out of child support. Public policy says that you have to pay your child support. And then there are certain alimonies and certain taxes that may not be dischargeable.
Mm-hmm. What would you tell someone who comes to you wanting to file just to remove their debt?
Well, if they want to file, what we want to do is look at their situation, see how much debt they have, how much income they have. Like today I was talking to somebody and they only have, in my experience, only have $15,000 in debt. But, I was like, well, what is your situation? I'm doing a consultation. I've known this person for 10 minutes. I've got some background, some income and family size and all that. And they're a family of 5. And he has $15,000 in debt. He has mortgages and expenses. Mm-hmm. And I was like, can you pay that off in the next 5 years? If you went on a budget and really focused on it, could you pay that off in the next 5 years? And he said, absolutely not. There is no way. Then I said, well, then maybe that would be something you would consider bankruptcy. But I've had people walk in and make over $100,000 a year and they've got $30,000 in debt. And I said, could you pay that off in 5 years? And they said, yes. Then I tell them it's a personal decision. You need to sit down and talk to yourself, do your budget, do your numbers. Can you pay this off in a reasonable amount of time? And is that good enough for you? Because there's no right or wrong. Anyone can file bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. You may not get to file the particular chapter you want, but anyone can file bankruptcy. It's just, is it right for you? It's a tool. It's not a statement of your personal beliefs. It's not a statement of your quality as a person. It's not a statement about anything. It is a tool. When you need a doctor, you go to the doctor. When you need your car aligned, you go to the mechanic. When you need your oil changed, you go to someone unless you can do it yourself. It's just a tool. Bankruptcy is just a tool that people can use and have the right to use.
How does it affect the person after they file bankruptcy? And what's the process after that? What is the
Well, after you file, you get your discharge order, and you go through the process, you get your discharge order, and you would start by rebuilding credit. You would need to move forward. If you do nothing, it could take as long as 4 years to get your credit back to average. But if you focus on rebuilding your credit, I like to advise clients to go out and get a secured credit card or one of those high interest credit cards and pay their Netflix. Let's say you got Netflix for $13 a month. They take it out of your bank account or you send it to them or whatever every month. But if you could use a secured credit card, not a prepaid, not a debit, but a secured card, or a new high interest credit card, but you pay it off every month, you pay that $13.95, whatever it is, $12.95 to Netflix on the card. You pay the card off. You pay no interest. That's new credit after the bankruptcy that you help rebuild. I like to tell people get 2 revolving credit cards. So you pay Netflix with one, and you pay your Florida Today subscription for $5.95 on the other one. And it's a small bill. You pay it anyway. You're not incurring any new debt as long as it has a grace period, and you're not going to charge interest. So you need one without grace period. So you pay the balance in full, and you're paying debts, expenses you already have, so you're not incurring new debt. And every month for 12 months, you pay that. When you go back to get a car loan or installment loan or something like that, you have some new credit history. So now your bankruptcy is a year old. You have new credit history. You paid it on time. You kept your balances down. You got a $300 limit, and the most you've ever had is 2 months worth of Netflix on it. That's great. That's rebuilding credit.
So how long after bankruptcy should a person do this? Is it immediately or
month? As soon as the discharge order shows up on your credit report, so that the lenders know, I'd run out and get one. I'd say 30 days, 45 days after the bankruptcy, because you want to jump on it as soon as you can. When you're doing what I'm suggesting, like getting the secured cards or something, you're getting it because you don't need it, and you you want to build credit. You don't want your first time back at the rodeo to be when you need it, and you have nothing. You filed bankruptcy 2 years ago. You haven't done a thing. You haven't charged anything. You haven't used any cards. You haven't made any car payments. 2 years later, when that car is broken, you need to get to work and you need to buy a new car. That you don't want that to be your first time back. You want to say, yeah, I filed bankruptcy 2 years ago, but look at my credit history in between. Now I need credit, and now I, have some new credit history.
if you were married, do both have to file, or can just the husband or the wife file separately?
You can file separately, and I strongly recommend that if you are an entrepreneur, and like myself, I'm self-employed. All of my debts are mine. All of my wife's debts are hers. And if something happened to me and I couldn't work, I had a stroke or an accident or something like that, I can file bankruptcy and just discharge my debts, and my wife would stay completely untouched by it. So yes, you can file separately, and I've had many entrepreneurs do that. The husband takes the risk starting the business and it doesn't work. He files bankruptcy. The wife starts a business, a month later, and they move on with her running the new business.
How does bankruptcy work when one of their spouses pass away and all of their debt is?
Well, when someone passes away, their debt is theirs. It's debt of the estate, and I'm not a probate attorney, or it's their debt. So I had a client come in the other day, and there were 3 cards that totaled over $30,000, and we went through it, and on the credit report it said she was an authorized user. She never guaranteed those charges. And so we sent letters to the creditors and said, there's no money in the estate. He had no life insurance. He had, minimal life insurance to cover the funeral. He had no major assets, no bank accounts. And we sent letters, and I haven't heard back from her in 3 months. And they said, apparently they reviewed their records and said, yep, that's not her debt.
Wow. That's awesome.